Good morning and welcome to Join the Dots. Well, the markets are still playing around with gold and silver, aren't they? I'm not worried at all. But I know it worries some people, and I know it brings out the shills who think they know more than everyone else on the planet, and they put silly barbed comments up. But honestly, if you look at some of the sites, we don't get so many silly comments actually. We've got a group of people who really understand what's happening, which is great because we're all in this together. Now, I found some pieces over the last few days which I really find quite, well, disturbing in a way, but obviously they only back up what we've said. First of all, I found Martin Armstrong, and the first few minutes of that was brilliant because he just described the period where gold ran up in the 70s, and he described it just as I've said it because that's the truth, that's the facts, that's not the narrative, it's not the myth, and it's not what economics books tell you. All to do with the invasion in the late 70s by Russia into Afghanistan, the American siege in Iran. Global instability drives gold, okay? Global instability, not inflation. In fact, deflation drives gold because when you get deflation, the economy contracts, jobs are lost, credit becomes, well, what it is, debt, an unrepayable debt. And therefore you get a credit crisis, a financial crisis, social crisis, every crisis, and gold goes up. Okay, much more than in inflation. Right, so now we've destroyed that myth. So I'm trying to condense Martin's piece. It's a very good piece, but I'm trying to condense it to very little. If Russia wins the war, the Eurobonds are useless, right? And if the EU wins the war, the amount of money that's going to be created is going to cause hyperinflation. It's a lose-lose, but it's a win-win for gold silver. Okay, and just to show you again how they think we're stupid. So one of the people who stole the goods from the Louvre left his Russian passport behind. Sort of thing you do as a burglar, isn't it? You take your passport with you and you drop it out as you're stealing something to make sure that you get caught. It's bizarre. They really do think we're stupid. They honestly do. What can I say? So France and the UK both looking for an IMF bailout. This is Martin speaking, okay? And it's true. It's true. And I remember the last time that happened in the UK, and I can't remember what rates went to, 16, 17, 18%. They won't be able to sell new debt, will they? But they need it. But they won't sell it at 16, 17, 18%. But they need it. And how can the IMF bail out two of the G7 at once? So everything is going to undermine the EU banking system. And of course, that catchphrase from Gerard Celente, which is a bit of a twist on historical versions of this. When all else fails, they take you to war. I would add, or pestilence, like viruses, or hunger. Either way, any of those three come up, we're going to have social chaos. And social chaos brings us around to the last time this happened in the world was around the end of the 18th century when we had the American Civil War, then we had the French Civil War or Revolution, and loads of other things. I looked this up the other day. I was absolutely fascinated because evidently, while the French had their revolution and then Napoleon actually tried to take Russia in 1812, and of course failed. But while he was distracted, America thought it was good to go into Canada and try and take Canada. And the British were sort of a bit caught in the middle. They wanted to defend because they thought Napoleon would come after them, but they equally didn't want the Americans to take Canada. And it all ended up in a bun fight, and basically America had to retreat and leave Canada alone. So can you see all of these things are sort of, there are vibrations about what happened then, all happening now. It's unbelievable. And in the meantime, I heard this morning that Peru has locked down Lima. Not martial law, but, you know, it's on the way. So Peru is now in trouble. Argentina's in a mess and America's trying to bail it out. Colombia, I saw some posts the other day saying Colombia was totally in support of Venezuela. And I saw some posts saying Bolivia is totally in support of Venezuela, but then I saw another post saying, no, Bolivia is actually saying America should do something about Venezuela. So that's South America, which I've not even discussed in all my time on here. I've never discussed South America because it's irrelevant. But it's not, because now it's showing real signs of getting involved in everything. Everything. So anyway, so that's Martin, and I'll link Martin Armstrong's piece. It is worth watching if you've got an hour. But if you haven't got an hour, it's not the end of the world. The second one is Lay's Real Talk of this morning. And this is the purge of 9 generals. 9 generals out of 16 have been removed from their positions, okay? But the interesting thing is, all of those 9 are absolute Xi appointed, Xi loyalist, Xi through and through. So who's removed them? Well, evidently it's the ministry that's removed them, not Xi. But these are all absolute loyalists, total loyalists to Xi, and they've been removed. Something, I've told you before, I expected Xi to be gone by now, and I expected him to be gone by the 4th plenum, which I think starts next week. We'll see. We'll see. If all his generals have been removed, who did it? And who's next? And what's happening? It's just uncertainty. It's just uncertainty wherever you look in the world. South America now, China, Russia, Ukraine, Gaza, Middle East, Europe, and Canada. It's just uncertainty everywhere, isn't it? So those people who expect gold and silver to sort of disappear into the history books, just not thinking. Just not thinking, okay? So then what else have we got? We've got Eurodollar University, and I'll try and fire up my phone and see if I can find that. But actually, before I do that, let's talk about school districts. And I'll do this briefly, okay? Now, one of you posted a comment, Dina, posted a comment about Mitch Wechsler's interview with Daniela Camboni. And I'd already seen it actually, and I found it fascinating, but I don't think I spent too much time looking at it until Dina raised it again, and I looked at it again. I thought, bloody hell. I mean, this is 5.1 trillion of outright fraud. Just outright in your face fraud. And Mitch Wechsler has decided to take has got an Atticus brief up, and they're going to take the school districts to court. Now this is incredible, because this is a 5.1 trillion total hyperinflation of property prices to help the school districts. It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. You just can't believe it's happened in a world where there are systems. Not many of them work, but there are systems. So I want you to have a look at that, okay? I will link it. I linked it yesterday to the comments, but you may not have seen it. Okay, I will link it as a main link. School districts, 5.1 trillion fraud. This is a monster. And the school district commissioners evidently earn between $300,000 and $500,000 a year. This is spectacular. Spectacular. This is all under the surface, because you're not seeing it yet, are you? You're not seeing this on the news. Then we have a fourth market sniper short. I'll link it. Please, I'll link it. It's brilliant, because it's all about the technicals on Bitcoin. And I mean, he just says exactly what I said so many times. If you're going into a surveillance system, which we are, we all know we are, even Martin talks about that, Martin Armstrong. We're going into a surveillance system. We're going into CBDCs. We're going into IDs that are absolutely, you can't do anything unless your ID is digitalised, and everyone, or rather everyone in the government, knows everything about you and can switch you off at a second. We're going into that surveillance system state. We are. There's no doubt, okay? So how does Bitcoin survive? And I've said this so many times. How do the authorities allow Bitcoin when everything needs to be controlled? They can't control it. 2 and 2, please, 2 and 2. Okay. So that's the market sniper. It's only 1 minute. It's a great short, and I think he nails it. Okay. So the last one is Eurodollar University. Let's have a look at Eurodollar University. This is very, very important. There are lots of very, very important things. I mean, if you think about Eurodollar, what has Jeff told us in the last 2 days? All right. He's told us oil is collapsing, and that shows the world is collapsing, and that means all the things we've said. And then he said the repo market is giving every signal there possibly is, and we know what that means because we saw it in 2019. They need to print gazillions, let's call it that, because we don't know what the word will be. Okay, they need to print trillions, gazillions, whatever. Okay, And the repo market is telling us that. We don't have to guess. We don't have to use our brains. We just have to see the repo market. And then you come on to, let's have a look at this one. Federal Reserve, what's this one? Federal Reserve just dropped a bombshell. Oh yeah, no, that's not too many. Okay, so here we are. Here's Jeff. All right. Gold price is tanking, what you need to know. As Jeff talks, it's absolutely 100% of what we've been saying. There are now no banks in the shadows. They're not banks, so don't call them shadow banks. In fact, Andrew Bailey from the Bank of England has come out now and told the world they're not banks. Oh, no banks in the shadows. And now, in fact, the official narrative has been fed down to the newspapers. They're not to call it shadow banks anymore. Well, no, they're not banks. Okay, so the Bank of England is now trying to head off a liquidity crunch. It's trying to head off the fear by saying, we've recognised it, we can see the problem, so we can deal with it because we've seen it. No, 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 no. Yes, they've seen it, but it's too late. The damage is done. The private credit's out there, the private equity's out there, the private everything's out there because none of it's regulated, none of it's controlled, and none of it's reported, and it's all the people's money. It's going to be lost. So gold and silver, Jeff says, are both on unstoppable journeys. Deflation and job losses are coming. Now, what have I said about those two? Job losses mean banking crisis, don't they? Because at the end of the day, people can't pay their auto loans, they can't pay their mortgage loans. So there are banking distresses. And those distresses are magnified by all the not shadow banks, not allowed to call that. Bank of England says no. Shadows. Trillions of dollars of shadows are worth nothing. Okay, worth nothing. So when you've got deflation coming, and when you've got job cuts coming, and I mean massive job cuts, I don't think anyone has a real comprehension of what this number's going to be. We're talking tens, we're talking, well, ultimately, if you go right round the world, you may even be talking 100 million jobs coming. You may really be talking that sort of number. This is unbelievable. So you won't believe it yet, but we'll see it. Okay, much lower rates are coming. Well, of course they are. They've got to drop rates to almost nothing, haven't they? Because they've got to be seen to do something. So the central banks will say, we're doing our job. We're dropping rates. We're going to protect jobs. Too late, as always. Too late should be their motto, shouldn't I? Central banks are too late. Okay, so this is all going on. All right. So again, you can be distracted by the silver price, whether it's 49.50 like it was when I started this, or whether it goes back to 48, 47, 46, I really don't care. I really don't care. The journeys we're on are gold to 8 to 10,000, best guess at this point. Silver, 500 plus at this point. Okay, that's the journey. There'll be a few bumps, but that's the journey. And everything I've just talked about, Martin Armstrong, the coup in China, which will come out in the next few weeks as the fourth plenum happens and we see what the consequences are. Then we have Eurodollar University, we have the repo crisis, we have the oil price, and now shadow banks not allowed to be called shadows anymore, not allowed to be called banks. What are they? They're just money-making what? For the rich. And they just take the money from the poor or from the middle class and they strip them out. And the gap between those who have and have not becomes bigger and bigger, wider and wider. There's less in the middle, and you have all the recipes for social strife. Okay, that's where we are. Market sniper, be careful on Bitcoin. I know it's ever so sexy. I know it's done ever so well. But at the end of the day, it does not fit into the elite plan of total control over everything. Your ID down to your bank account are going to be controlled. Why would they allow Bitcoin to survive outside that? It doesn't fit the plan. Okay, so there we are. It's a big day, but this is just a normal day at the moment. This is what's happening, or what I see almost every day. It's just stunning. Thank you very much.